Let me tell you a very disturbing story a guy shared about something that happened in his house one night. Earlier that year, several homes in his neighborhood had been burglarized, so his dad decided to install a motion-activated floodlight in their backyard. The light was very bright and extremely sensitive, and even a small animal could trigger it. Many nights the light would suddenly turn on while the family was watching TV, and his dad would rush to the back door to check the yard, but every time it was just a cat or something harmless. One weekend, his parents went out of town for a reunion and stayed in a hotel overnight, which meant the guy had the whole house to himself. After finishing his shift at a convenience store, he went home, took a shower, ordered pizza, and started watching movies in the living room. At some point during the night, he fell asleep on the couch. Around midnight, he woke up in the dark room, and as he stood up, the entire backyard suddenly lit up through the windows. The floodlight had turned on. He looked outside, but didn't see anything, and after a few seconds, the light turned off again. He shrugged and went to throw away his empty pizza box, but suddenly the light turned on again. Now he started to feel uneasy. He walked to the back door and looked carefully through the window into the yard. The bright light made the grass and trees look strange and colorless, but there was nothing there. No cat, no animal, nothing moving at all. The light turned off again, and he grabbed his keys from the wall and slowly walked back toward the door to check outside. Just as he reached the door, the floodlight turned off again, and the yard became completely dark. That's when he saw a pale face staring back at him through the glass. He screamed and jumped back in terror, but a second later, he realized something embarrassing. It was just his own reflection in the window. He laughed nervously and bent down to pick up his keys. But as he lowered his head below the window, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Right outside the door, only a few feet away, a man was crouching down against the wall where he couldn't be seen through the window. The man was barefoot and shirtless, his body pale and dirty, and in his hand he held something long and sharp that looked like a blade. The guy immediately recognized the man. It was his elderly neighbor, Mr. Kaminsky, but something about him looked terribly wrong. His mouth hung open, his face looked swollen and strange, and his eyes were fixed on the guy with a cold, animal-like stare. Trying not to panic, the guy quietly walked away from the door and went upstairs. Once inside his bedroom, he locked the door, pushed furniture against it, and called the police. He waited in terror until they arrived. When the police searched the house and yard, they couldn't find anyone, but they did find something strange, a smear of fresh blood near the back door. The police then went to check Mr. Kaminsky's house, and a little while later they came back, but instead of reassuring him, they arrested him and took him to the police station. The guy was confused and terrified until a detective told him something horrifying. Mr. Kaminsky had already been dead before that night. Someone had murdered him earlier using a broken pair of garden shears. And then the detective explained something even worse. They had difficulty identifying Mr. Kaminsky's body because the killer had used those shears to cut off his face, which meant the person standing outside that back door was wearing it.